All right. Whoa. Good morning. All right, thank you guys very much for your patience. First of all, how are you doing this morning? Okay, so I guess that side of the room is doing good. I don't know, how about this side? Okay, who do we have? What are you guys? You guys are all seniors, right? So we have this side that is, it seems a little bit more excited. What about this side? What's going on? Are you guys all right? Okay, we need a little bit of energy for this morning, right? You're celebrating your senior year. You know, this is it. And we're here to kind of talk to you guys a little bit about something that you all will be going through. So I'm gonna ask one more time. How you guys doing this morning? Nice, nice. All right, so we are going to kick this thing off with a video, and then we'll go ahead and dive right into it. So.
Your essay is your chance to be awesome, to set yourself apart from all the other students applying to the same college or university with similar grades, similar test scores. It's your chance to let the admissions officer who's reading your essay see what makes you different, see what, gotta get over here, see what makes you unique, or what you're going to be able to do to enhance that college campus. So that's kind of the point of the essay, your chance to shine. It's a lot of times, I think, the most daunting part of the college application because it does take the most time, writing it, outlining it, the drafts and revisions, but it's definitely the time that you, like I said, you can let your personality shine and let the colleges see why they want to take you and why you would be a good part of their campus or a good fit on their campus. So we're gonna go ahead right now, and we're going to take a moment to introduce ourselves, so you know who we are and who's going to be presenting to you this morning, and then we'll get moving with the presentation. All right, so you'll start. So my name is Emily Stevenson. I am the Regional Director of Recruitment for Rutgers University, which is the State University of New Jersey, located in New Brunswick, New Jersey. This is the third university I've worked for, so actually I've been in this industry for 11 years. And you'll hear from us in a minute, but combined, the three of us have actually worked in college admissions over 30 years, which means we write a lot of college essays and have a lot of experience in it. I've also actually worked on the high school side. I spent a semester here at Canyon Crest, so I'm very familiar with your school and with the high school side of it as well as the college side. So I will hand it over. What's your next?
Hi, I'm Torianne Matsuda from Drexel University, which is located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I don't know if Emily mentioned this yet because I wasn't really listening, but we all are based here in California, but our schools is somewhere else. We're part of the Regional Admissions Councils of California, and we service students from California and giving you opportunities to look out of state. So this is one of the things that we offer students and schools is the opportunity to learn about essay writing workshops. So we're here to share this experience with you. Drexel is my fourth school that I've worked for, and I've been working in admissions for over 20 years, so it's been a long time. And public, private, large, small schools as well. So we hope this essay workshop will be very helpful to you.
Can you guys hear me with this one? Okay. So my name is Joseph Davidson. I am the Regional Recruitment Manager for The Ohio State University. Anybody familiar with that school? A couple of people? Okay. Anybody familiar with our football team? We dabble a little bit. And so, as they mentioned, we are all regionally based, and so I do have the pleasure and opportunity to visit with not only your school, but many of the other schools in the greater San Diego area, Los Angeles, and also the Bay Area. So I'm really happy to be here this morning with you guys to talk to you a little bit about college essays and how that really plays a factor or a role in the admissions process. I know we all represent very different schools, and we'll give you guys some examples today of some of the things that can make you successful. I know in our process, we definitely consider those things. And for us, we usually get about 44,000 applications, right? And so for us, the essay is definitely one way that students have the opportunity to differentiate themselves from other applicants. And so hopefully we'll get you guys, this will be interactive, and we can kind of go through this and talk a little bit more about the essays and how to come up with something successful that can definitely propel you in the admissions process. So with that being said, I'll turn it back over to my colleague here, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Let's change the slide. Great. So kind of as we mentioned, we'll go through this slide pretty quickly, but as I mentioned, combined, the three of us have been in college admissions both regionally and locally for over 30 years. We have combined read well over 20,000 applications. You can keep putting them up, yeah. Basically, what does that mean? We've read a lot of words. We know a lot about the college application, and that's what we're here to do today, is to share that with you. Go to the next slide. So when you're thinking about the college application, I mentioned it can often be the most daunting part the essay can be the most daunting part of your college application. But as I mentioned, it's a chance to make a difference, to kind of let yourself shine to the admissions committee and let them know a little bit more about who you are beyond what you're sharing in that basic demographic and question and answer part of your application. Next slide. And then, again, your opportunity to demonstrate who you are and let them know what you're about and really share yourself with the committee. And I think, so before you start, you can click to the next one. I think the big thing to know is, who do you guys think reads your application and reads that essay? You can raise your hands. Not everybody at once. All right. Well, since we're so quiet, we'll wait for you. Oh, you have one? Sorry, I can see.
Hi.
Yes.
I mean, my guess is many people in the admissions office.
Okay, good. Yeah. Many times, have you guys participated in any high school visits? Any of the colleges that have come and talked to you here at Canyon Crest? Have you gone and talked to any of those admissions counselors? Many times, most of the time, that's the first person that's going to read your application. So people like the three of us up here, typically most universities, an application goes through 2 or 3 reads. So 2 or 3 different people will read your application and read that essay, but not always. Sometimes it is just that person you're meeting with at your high school that comes to talk to you.
Yeah, and I would also add that, so when it comes to who reads your applications, right? Another way to look at this is we are real people. And I know when I was going through the process and really trying to come up with, okay, what should I say? What should I write? A lot of it was, my struggle was really not just understanding that, admissions counselors, whether it's admissions counselors or some schools have outside readers as well, but all of these people are just regular people like you and I. And so when you approach this essay, you don't need to be necessarily overly worried about what to say. We're real people. We like to hear your real stories, and that's something that I definitely think will help you out in the process if you kind of get comfortable with the idea of that. Now, I do want to touch on something that was mentioned just a few seconds ago. When you think about your essay, how many of you guys have already started on that? By show of hands, okay. What has been some of your fear of this essay, or maybe your biggest concern as you kind of sit down and you start writing? What are some examples? So you guys are all done, and we can go ahead and wrap this up. Right? What are some of your worries and concerns? Okay, so not to sound the same as others. Great. What about here? Too simplistic and nice. Okay. It's not interesting. Okay. So try to get your personality across. Okay. Nice. And then I just think you guys are in it, right? Gotcha. Okay. Right.
There's so many things to write about, and choosing one is really hard.
Right. Right. So a lot like, what do I write about? Okay. Sounding arrogant. Interesting. Give me an example. What do you think? Just kind of like talking about yourself, essentially? Okay. That makes sense. I definitely can see that. What about right here?
Yeah, it's kind of what they said. There's a really fine line between being proud of your accomplishments and sounding like you're just trying to sell yourself to the college. And it's really difficult to find the balance there where you're giving them meaningful information, but you're not coming across as braggadocious.
Right. Okay, last one right here.
Will the college admissions officers understand allegory and will it come across?
Okay, you have to say that one more time, a little bit louder.
Will the college admissions officers understand allegory and will it come across?
Okay, nice. I don't think they heard you, but it sounds like that. Did you guys hear that? Okay, one more time, a little bit louder.
Will the college admissions officers understand an allegory and will it come across properly?
All right. I like the way you said that. Nice. Okay, then the last thing I would add is when we talked about how long we've been doing this and how many applications or how many essays we've read, I think it's probably safe to say that one of the things that we really enjoy is when we come across those essays that really give us a good sense of who the person is, who the student is, and it's just honest and true to who you are. And those are things you can always tell when you're going through and you're reading various applications over and over. Basically, I know a lot of us read sometimes over 1,000. I know I used to work, anybody ever heard of University of San Diego? Okay, I used to work there, and I read probably in one cycle, definitely well over 1,000. In a few short months, so it's every day kind of reading these things over and over. So the ones that really stuck out to me were the ones where I really got a good sense of who the student is. And so we're going to give you guys go through some examples and things today that will help you kind of address some of the things that you guys mentioned, maybe some of the concerns you had, and then hopefully that'll help you through the process. So okay, I'll turn it over.
And I was going to say, just to add on to that, I think as Joseph mentioned, writing in your own writing style. So if you are a humorous person and you can use humor appropriately in an essay, use it. One of my favorite college applications that I've ever read, or essays that I've ever read, a student wrote about their family cat and how it was out to get him. And they went through the whole essay, used it to kind of tie himself into it. For the last sentence of his essay, basically he said, my future or my destiny is in your hands. Either you admit me and I'm saved from this family cat, or I'm not. And so it was very humorous. I don't write in that style. That's not my writing style. So there's no way I could have pulled something like that off. But if you're a student that can do that, do it. If you're a student that, you really have to kind of think about what is your writing style and how can you portray that. This is not a formal academic essay. You don't have to use quotes from a book that you've read if that's not your writing style. It's really to be written in the first person to really portray, again, your personality.
Back to who's going to read your essay, I kind of wanted to remind all of you that the readers who read your essay could be anywhere from the age of 23 to 80 years old, or more maybe, depending on who's reading. So be aware of the type of wording you use, slang, you may want to avoid those. And the biggest thing, I know text is very easy to do these days. Please capitalize when appropriate and do not abbreviate as you are writing your essays. Because again, you don't know who your reader will be. You may see that I will be the first person to read your essay because I'm your admissions counselor, but there is a second person in my office that will be reading your essay, and there is a wide range of age groups in my office. So I don't know who's the second reader going to be, and so just be aware that that person might be younger than me or older than me. And so you want to be able to convey your ideas and your thoughts and your personality to a wide age range when you write your essay.
Okay, so going on, so basically, the first thing you want to do is kind of define your essay. What is go back one, sorry. I told you to go too far. So what's the main purpose of your essay? Are you trying to highlight an extracurricular activity that was very important to you or very meaningful to you? Are you trying to explain something that happened your sophomore year? Maybe something happened that affected your GPA. Maybe it's on a school that gives you that separate spot to address your academic record. Or maybe something significant happened that was great that you want to highlight. Are you trying to demonstrate your academic curiosity? Are you trying to demonstrate a passion that you have? And the other thing is you want to let the school know you've done your research on that school. So can you tell them, what is a Scarlet Knight? Do you know what it means to be a Scarlet Knight? Or a Buckeye? Or a Dragon? What does that mean? Or if you're looking at other schools across the nation, what is it that sets that university apart? George Washington University, for example. Does anyone know that they have an unofficial mascot? If you're applying to George Washington University, you probably want to know that. That's a great way to demonstrate your interest in that university. So going to the next page. Then really look at what the question is asking for. So really make sure you are addressing the question. I know at Rutgers, if students don't address the question, that actually, unfortunately, changes the part of how we read the application and actually knocks points off of that essay. So really make sure you're addressing that. If it asks you to list something, list it. If you're defining something or explaining something, make sure you're doing that. And then formatting it. So make sure that you do really take time to really think about, before you sit down and actually start writing, think about what is it you're going to write about. Outline it. Format it, and please make sure you have people proofread that draft for you, and make sure there aren't any typographical errors, or that it is the reader does interpret it how you intend for it to be interpreted. Next slide. What's interesting?
Okay, and before we move on to the various 4 types of questions, I want to touch on a couple of things. We talked a little bit about highlighting your extracurricular involvement. Okay, so in terms of your extracurricular involvement, right? How many of you guys are involved here at your high school, right? Anybody, so let's say, is it anybody in ASB? No? Okay. Is this the whole senior class? Or? No. Okay, just a few, okay. And then, what about just other clubs and organizations maybe here at your school? Okay, give me a few examples, maybe. What's that? Conservatory? All right, and then?
Robotics.
Robotics, nice. Both of you? You had, I know you had your hand up, but you took it down real fast.
No, I was just going to say conservatory robotics.
Okay, got you. And then back here in the corner.
Eagle Club.
What's that? Eagle Club. Okay. Anybody involved on this side? Okay, I'll come back to you guys later. All right, so we talk about involvement, highlighting your involvement, right? So for us, we don't just, when we read, if you decide to write your essay about your involvement, or if you decide to touch on something you're involved in, right? We don't necessarily just want to know that you're involved in something or that you have a long list of things that you've been involved in. It sounds like some of you guys have multiple things. What do you think we really want to know? So when we talk about your involvement, because obviously in the application we ask you what you're involved in. You know, your essay is a place where a lot of schools want to, will like to see you mention what you're involved in. But what do you think we really want to know about that? So why that's important to you? Okay, that's definitely a part of it. What it means to you. Anybody else? I'm trying to see like this section, but the light is. I'm probably going to be a little blind after this. What about you? What's that? Oh, you're saying hi. Okay. Very friendly. All right, nice to meet you. What's your name? What's your name? Bree. How you doing, Bree? All right. So we want to know, what we want to know, right, is we want to know how is your involvement in that club or organization or whatever you might be involved in, how has that shaped who you are as a person? How has that shaped, your mentality and your maturity and your time management skills, the things that will help you be successful when you get to a college campus? We want to know, we want you to kind of go into detail about that if you decide to write about it. So be sure to kind of talk about what you've learned, because that's going to be a big part of it as well. Also, we mentioned in terms of your, when you talk a little bit about, I think there was one that was mentioned if you what happened during sophomore year. I think that was one of them or something like that. Now, I'll give you a perfect example. I'll use myself. So during my sophomore year, I believe it was my sophomore year in high school, I had a lot of crazy things happening, in like my family life. And so, has anybody ever had a rough class or a rough semester? Right? That happens to some of us. So that specific semester, I struggled in a couple of my classes because I had to do a lot of things to help my family on the side. So I didn't have as much time to study as I usually did. And so when it came time for me to apply and write my essay, I knew that was something that universities would see. I knew they would see kind of that dip in my grades a little bit, and so I wanted to explain that. And so when we mentioned that, if anybody has anything like that on their transcript, they know, maybe you've been a solid student and maybe suddenly, there's a drop in your grades for whatever reason. It's always a good idea to explain those things and use your essay to really go into detail about not only what happened to you, but again, how that experience taught you, what you learned from that experience and how you've grown. And so those are the things that we want to see, because you will face obstacles in college, obviously, and we'd like to know that our incoming students are prepared to kind of go through those challenges and come out the other side successful. So those are a few of the things that I wanted to point out about the slide before. All right. Okay, so in terms of, there are a few different types of, we're going to go through some of the different types of essays that you will be writing. Now, it really, again, it depends on the school that you're applying to. Some schools will want from you a personal statement essay, right? Now, this is usually, and I'll let you guys read this for yourselves, but a lot of times with a personal statement, there's a couple of ways that students kind of go in the wrong direction, right? So when you are writing a personal statement essay, right, what's the number one thing you want to do? Somebody said be personal. What was that? Was that you? Okay, he has like a deep voice. He's like, yeah. Nice. Okay, so talk to me about that. Okay, what makes you a unique individual? Okay. And there have been countless times, that's absolutely right, there have been countless times when I've read a personal statement essay and the student will talk about other things. So they'll talk about their family, right? They'll talk about, how their mom or their dad went to that school and they learned a lot about that school, or, they'll talk a little bit about how maybe one of their aunts or uncles is a CEO for a company, so they want to go into business because of that. But they don't really, sometimes students won't spend this time focusing on them. And that's why it's called a personal statement. It's your opportunity, kind of like what we talked about. I think it was Bree? Were you the one who said, kind of feeling like arrogant a little bit and one of the challenges? See, I have a good memory. So this is a place where you can talk about you. This is what we want you to do when we're talking about personal statements. Okay, so for those of you applying it, if you have school, I know, like I said, different schools, it depends on the school you're applying for. A lot of us are common application schools now, so, the essay prompts are going to be the same. But if you are applying to a school that's not, they may ask you to submit something like this. And this is something that you want to make sure you do, is to make sure to highlight who you are and how you reach that point, in addition to who you want to be.
And I think to touch on that, I think a rule of thumb is sometimes you do need to talk about someone else or an activity or something to tie it into yourself. Totally fine. 10 to 20% of your essay should be about somebody else, if that's how you have to introduce it. The rest of it needs to be about you. Because we're not trying to admit your mom or your granddad or your sibling. A lot of times I've read essays and it'll say something, and I'll read it and I'm like, well, that's great. His dad is awesome. But I'm not trying to admit his dad to Rutgers University, right? So definitely think about that. Really, 10 to 20% can be about something else, but about 80 to 90% of it should be about you. And it's turning it back, I think someone over here said earlier, turning it back to yourself in a way that's appropriate. And I know that's hard because we're raised in a society where we're not supposed to talk about ourselves, right? We're not supposed to brag about ourselves, but guess what? You're trying to sell yourself to a university, and that's what this essay is doing. It's kind of like your ability to kind of appropriately talk about yourself and let us know how great you are. Again, I keep saying it's my theme, let your personality shine through. Some schools will also have the academic personal statement. So it's all very related, the personal statement and the academic personal statement. But again, and like Joseph mentioned, many schools are on the Common Application. I think there's a new application that's going to be coming out similar to the Common App in another year or two. And then also schools have their own individual applications as well. So depending on the school that you're applying to, that's the type of essay question you will have, but they're all somewhat similar. And many times you can use the same essay for multiple schools if they're not a Common App school, but just make sure you're adjusting that essay to make sure it answers the questions that are in that topic. So with the academic portion of the essay, again, they're asking, sometimes schools will specifically ask, is there something that maybe influenced your academic performance? They might have a question that will, and we'll kind of go into those later, that are more specific to the school, that might want to know what your strengths are, or how well you know the university, or how you think you're academically prepared for their university. That's kind of the academic portion of it. And
So how many of you started your Common App essay? How many of you are applying to Common App schools and have not started your essay or looked at the questions? So here are the 5 prompts these are the questions that you get to choose. And you need to choose one, and your essay can only be 650 words. What does that mean? If it's 651 words, we will not see the last word. It will cut you off at 650. So please be aware that you do have to answer this in a short amount of time. Again, you can talk about someone else, something else, not related to you, but kind of tied into your situation. But keep that part really short because you only have a few words to talk about yourself in this Common App essay. Also, you want to be sure you're answering the questions because sometimes we get essays, students think they're answering the question, but they're really not. They're just telling us something. It seems like it's so random that they're telling us. I just read an essay about a student who talked about, which one was it? The last one, discussing accomplishment or event, formal or informal, that marked her transition from childhood to adulthood. Her intro paragraph sounded like she was going to tell me what that transition was. However, it changed into her life with her grandmother, and then at the end I was like, I don't get it. Where was the transition and what happened? And so she had to rework it, and hopefully she will rework it and will actually answer the question. Because it was all about her grandmother. And so there wasn't any of that transition. So we have to definitely make it apparent to us what the transition is between childhood and adulthood that has happened to you. If that's the essay prompt you're going to use. Let's see what we can do. The first one is the identity one. I mean, and that is a pretty open-ended type of question. So a lot of you, if you're not sure what to write about, that's a good one to kind of choose. And be sure if you're going to do the failure question, the number 2 question, you kind of tell us how you overcame that failure and not just about the failure itself. Because the important part is, how did you overcome that? And that is the big key to that essay and what you learned from it.
Okay, so on the next slide, you'll just kind of see quickly the supplemental essays. How many of you have started your Common App supplements? Great, you're kind of starting them. Okay, so we kind of have some examples of just some schools that we pulled. Again, and we've kind of touched on this, so I don't feel like I need to spend a ton of time going over the supplement. But with the Common Application Supplement, it's because with the Common App, there's one general essay that you're sending to every school, Common App school that you're applying to. A lot of schools want to get to know you a little bit better. And they really want to see your demonstrated interest in their university. Why are you applying to them? Are you simply checking a box because you can, because it's the common application? Or are you truly and genuinely interested in their institution? So a lot of times that's what these supplements are for, just to, again, to kind of set maybe there's a little bit of additional information they want to set their institution apart or that they need in order to see if you really are a competitive applicant for their school. So then going into the next one, just some practical advice. What are some things that you guys think are things you should not do on your essays? Some don'ts. Don't do this on your essay or your supplement. Right over here.
Cliches.
Excuse me?
Cliches.
Cliches. Very good. Anybody else? A list of your accomplishments, correct? Because there will be a space on the application where you can list your awards and honors. Correct. So basically you want to talk about something that is not already on your application, that's not already apparent on your transcript, something that that's going to be additional information. The UCs will use the term a lot, missed opportunity. So this was a great essay, but it was a missed opportunity to tell us more about this, more about this, or for the student to tell us more about them. Okay, so as we pull these up, what are some things that you think we should do?
Oh, sorry, I was going to have it.
Oh yeah, we can start pulling them out. Yeah. So we mentioned earlier, use your own voice, your own words. You don't need to pull out a thesaurus and try to impress us with your big vocabulary. You want to make it very compelling. Don't make it too long. So yes, there is a word limit on most, but sometimes some schools don't have a word limit yet, so it won't cut you off. Make sure you proofread, that you have good sentence structure and good grammar. Those are kind of obvious things. So don't ramble. What I feel like I'm doing right now. And it's not your time to confess something. A lot of times students will go, I'm trying to think of an example of that off the top of my head, but you see it. It's not your time to kind of say, oh, I know I did this, or it's really, again, you want to put your best foot forward. So really, even if it's a negative circumstance, you want to turn that into a positive example. So again, if you're talking about a failure, what did you learn? How did that failure help you grow into becoming the person that you're becoming?
And then I want to also add, because I remember reading some essays, if you're going through a situation right now and it hasn't finished, you're still going through the process, that might not be a good topic or a good subject to talk about in your essay. Because you want to make sure that the whole process has happened before you talk about it. I did have a few students who talked about certain instances that they're going through right now. I read it and I'm like, there's no conclusion to it because we don't know what happened in the end because you're experiencing that right this second. So be sure to talk about something that has happened. There's a start, there's an end to it, because otherwise it's going to get really questionable with it when you're trying to write it all down.
And one other thing I would add about the do's and don'ts. Sometimes, as we mentioned, students will use the same essay for multiple schools, which is perfectly fine. However, if you are applying to the Ohio State University and you're also applying to Michigan, and somehow, some way you manage to forget to change the name out, that can be bad. And so sometimes you see students do things like that, and those are going to be minor mistakes, but you just want to make sure it kind of shows that you didn't pay attention to your essay or you didn't really kind of go over. So that's something that you definitely want to see. We see that more often than not. So you want to make sure to pay attention to that as well. Okay, so we can move forward to the next slide. 2 more. There we go.
We're going to have a volunteer come up and read this essay to the group because we want you guys to help us decide, is this a good essay or is it an essay that needs work?
Who wants to come down to the microphone, and we have you can read it off of this.
Yeah, we have that.
Come on down.
All right.
I can see there's like 2 people back there raising their hand. Yeah.
Okay, one of you guys come
One of you come down.
And there's a mic right here.
Nominate yourself. It's really tiny, so we thought it'd be better if someone came down and read it on the mic.
Okay, you guys, we're gonna ask you for your feedback on whether this is a good essay or if it needs work. Okay? Go ahead.
As a child, I've always loved cookies. I did not know that this was an inherited characteristic that would be passed down from my father. My father is one of 11 children. When he was a small child, he would always crave boxes of cookies. He would ask his parents for money, but his family was so poor that they could not afford to buy it. That's so sad. My father promised himself that when he grew older, he would work harder than anyone else and be the most successful and buy all the cookies he had ever wanted. This became my inspiration. My dad came from an unknown country looking to pursue his happiness. His goals were to be happy and to work for the happiness of his family. I know that my dreams are my family dreams. Beyond reaching my goal of becoming a pediatrician, I want to inspire all the people around me, just like my father inspired me. At an early age, I learned the definition of hard work. When I was in 3rd grade, I taught myself to write, read, and speak English. I did not have anyone's help. My mom did not know the language, and my dad worked night and day. Therefore, they were not able to help me. I heard my teachers doubting my ability to learn English and confessed to my mom that I might fail this year. I was determined to improve my English speaking, writing, and reading skills. I was very little, but I was not going to allow anyone to doubt my potential. My afternoons consisted of endless hours of reading and practicing English. I never lost focus of my objective. And by the end of the 3rd grade, I had learned how to read, write, and speak English. I practiced my English skills. I never lost focus of my objectives. And by the end of the 3rd grade, I learned how to read, write, and speak English. I was not fluent at first, however, my skills have continued to improve. This became my first cookie. I had truly tasted the flavor of success. I do not like to settle for less. I do my best to reach my goals, and I attempt to do the same once I step onto Xavier's campus. College will be my stool to reach the cookie jar. It will help me become a better person. I will meet people from other countries. Their personality and culture will help me to explore the country they come from. I want to be involved in the medical field ever since I was little. I have loved working with children. My dream is to become a pediatrician. Coming from a Hispanic background, I often see low-income Latino families in need of health care. Once I become a pediatrician, I want to come back to low-income communities and provide free services for these families. I know I'm willing to help people going through difficult situations, and I know that throughout the medical field, I will be able to accomplish this. At this point, I am halfway through my journey. I have climbed halfway towards that cookie jar. Although I am the first generation of my family going to college, I know I'm ready to take that challenge and reach for that cookie out there. All I ask is for an opportunity to show everyone that I'm capable of reaching my goals, to reach my own cookies, just like my dad reached his.
Great job.
Okay, so what are some things that you guys noticed about this essay sample?
Oh, yes. So it bounced around a lot. It didn't really have a cohesive flow. There were a couple points that were repeated, so it did kind of tie itself together at the end, but that cohesiveness wasn't throughout the entire.
So the lack of cohesiveness. What else?
I saw somebody's hand there.
Over here. Really repetitive. What did you guys? Oh wait, I see. In the middle.
I thought the person talked a lot about their family, a lot about their dad and his struggles, and a lot about their own.
Somebody here.
The first one I was thinking, because it seemed like it was a struggle as we were kind of tying up the father to it, how that influenced the student, and then like the second round, this was like so repetitive, and the last two was kind of like, I don't know.
Okay. And is there stuff? Oh, there's more hands.
And I just also complained several times that their old insurance come to nutrition and that they just left it at that. They didn't emphasize more on why, how they're trying to become a pediatrician or really what that meant.
Great. Okay. Now, did you guys pick up anything positive about the essay? Were there any themes throughout it that you can see?
I thought it was kind of a good analogy, but it didn't really end up going anywhere. And I thought it was phrased super well, but I thought that the underlying ideas didn't generate.
Great. As I read this essay, and I actually believe this is a response to a supplemental question, so that's probably part of why it's a little bit shorter and not as defined as what maybe an entire 500-word essay would look like. I actually thought they did a good job of, I know we mentioned that they talked a lot about their family, but every time the student talked about their family, they tied it back to themselves and went back to talking about, the strength, perseverance, determination. Those are kind of the themes that I pick out as I read the essay. One thing I should tell you, I know we kind of talked about what to do and what not to do. As admissions counselors and as admissions committees, we realize that you guys are juniors and seniors in high school. Most of you, all of you in here are seniors. And we always, I think the good way to look at us is we're your advocate. So our job is to advocate for you as we read your application. So we're going to pull out those positives from your essay. So I see strength, I see determination, I see the ability to really overcome adversity in order to reach a goal. So while I agree is that, yes, it isn't complete maybe, it still needs a little bit of work. I think the student is definitely going in the right direction as far as really tying their personality into it, picking up themes of wanting to reach a goal and willing to put the work in to get to that place. And to really, if I see okay, if they were going to come to my school, so let's say I'm the representative for Xavier and I'm reading this, I see a student that's, okay, once I get to campus, they really are going to put the work in, because if for a student that maybe English is not their first language, this is very well written. So clearly they really have done the work, so that's demonstrated in the essay as well.
Just want to add.
That was great. Thank you. So,
We have another example. Can we get another volunteer? Okay, can we go one more slide?
I don't volunteer.
Oh, and we need another reader.
There we go. All right, who's next? We need one more volunteer. I think we should. Oh, we have someone. Paper, rock, scissors. Okay, no, let's get someone from this side since this side was pretty quiet earlier. I'm glad to see that you guys have livened up a little bit.
Okay, everyone, is this a good essay or something that needs
This piece is called Why I Think I Would Be a Good Nurse. Why I think I would be a good nurse. I think I would be a good nurse because I love helping people. Ever since I was a young girl, I've always put others before myself, and I think you have to have that state of mind to become a great nurse. What got me interested in becoming a nurse was the movie Patch Adams. Seeing him helping young boys and girls focus on positive things instead of thinking about their illness is exactly what I want to do. Nobody wants to be inside a hospital. It's very depressing. I want the patients to feel excited to be coming to see me because I will make them feel welcomed and that they are not just a folder in the filing cabinet. I believe that every patient should count. To make the children happy, I will hand out suckers and stickers, maybe even balloon animals. I will do what it takes to make sure that the kids are fully satisfied and content. I would rather see the children with smiles rather than gloomy faces. Becoming a nurse is a very important factor in my life. Many of my family members are in the medical field, and one of my family members is starting their journey. They all enjoy their job. In my high school, I got to be a part of the mentoring program where I had the chance to shadow a registered nurse. She worked in the urgent care at Nationwide Children's Hospital. There are so many things that a nurse can do to make sure the kids feel satisfied that they are being cared for in the best possible way. One event that I remember the most is when my mentor told me to look in one of the patient's rooms to see if everything is all right. When I opened the door, a young boy died. I'm just kidding. When I opened the door, a young boy ran up to me and gave me the biggest hug.
All right, so what do you think? So, right here. A lot of rambling going on, okay.
I feel like if we focus more on his shadowing program and what his encounter with the child meant to him and how that really made him feel like he wanted to, if that it was more or less focused on that, like I feel like it would be a much better essay than
Okay. Okay. Monotone? Okay. Nice. Okay. Okay. Say that one more time, a little bit louder. Okay. Okay, and then, okay.
Okay. It was a little bit simplistic. Yeah, I think, I cannot wait. It was, again, the sentence structures were very simplistic and the word choice was simplistic and it didn't end up feeling like it was telling a story as much as listing a bunch of thoughts. Which may not have been the structure that you
Right. So basically, so in other words, because I know we talked a little bit about, students not feeling like they have to use you know, big words to do, but you feel like it's almost too simple.
It came across as too simplistic for the idea that they're being.
Gotcha. Okay. The front group.
So I would not call an exceptional essay or perfectly put together, but I think it does effectively address what it's trying to do. So it needs to definitely be that clear, and it progresses throughout the essay, all without one reading.
Okay. Good. So one more over here. Gotcha. All right, Bree. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Good.
I thought they did a really good job of applying their experiences, but they definitely could talk about how it affected them later.
Good, good. Anybody on this side? Okay. All right.
So, was there a big, I don't want to say big, but when he was reading the essay, was there a trip up besides the part that he said that the boy died? Was there a part that he kind of tripped up on? Do you think that if this student read this essay out loud to him or herself, would have caught that? So that's another trick, is also get it proofread by other people, but also read your essay out loud. Because he got to that sentence, and if he wrote it, he'd probably be like, oh, I used the wrong word here, and make the correction. So be sure to have it proofread by other people, but also reread it out loud to yourself, and make sure that it sounds well, that you're using the right words. You know, if you want to put the word no and you actually put on, you probably will catch it if you read it out loud. And those things that spell check will not pick up because it is spelled correctly, it's just not the right word. So those things could help you when you're proofreading your essay.
And I think, yeah, just to touch on exactly what they said, I like how you guys did pull out some positives in this essay. Definitely you can see that the intent is there. As a reader, what we're going to see is, they didn't take time to proofread. They didn't really care about coming to our school. Like, are they really going to take time? Because this is, again, you're selling yourself, you're putting your best foot forward. So I think that's a big part of it. I mean, I think those are things that go into that reader's mind. It doesn't, it definitely hasn't been proofread because it was hard to kind of read, especially out loud. So when we're sitting on admissions committee and people are voting on, students being admitted or not, those are things that are going to be on the back of the mind of the person who read your essay. So definitely that's something to keep in mind. Again, reading it out loud to yourself, having other people proofread it. Make sure that it flows well, and again, that the intent that you have and the message you want to get across, when you started kind of brainstorming that essay, that when you have that finished product, that message is portrayed. Does that make sense? All right, so next slide.
All right, so to wrap this up, and yeah, you can go ahead and click all of these through. So to wrap this up, like we said, we've read tons and tons of essays over the years, and for me, I used to work for, anybody ever heard of Washington State University? Okay, so I used to work for Washington State University as well, and I'll never forget this. And then this is in regards to the first bullet point here. So spell check is good, but proofreading is much better. So I remember we received an essay, and started reading the essay, and the student, he went on to say, I'm so-and-so, I'm very interested in international bunnies. And so, I kind of brushed that off, which we tend to do, just a mistake. And literally every single time in that student's essay where they meant to say international business, it said international clinics, right? And obviously, if it was just one mistake, we're not going to penalize a student for that. But something like that, again, and obviously bunnies is a real word, so if you use spell check, that would be the case. But have multiple people read it. You have your friends read it, have your parents read it, have your counselors read it, whoever is willing to read it for you, have a second pair of eyes, and maybe even a third. Kind of go over it just so you don't miss anything. We want to know your story, right? So we talked a little bit today about we want to know more about who you are, okay? And as you kind of sit down and write these essays and you're thinking about all of the different experiences that you bring to the table, you want to kind of think about the schools that you're applying for. What are they looking for, and who am I, and as it relates to that. Surprise is good, shock is not. So to me, how I translate that is keep in mind that most of us that read these essays, in a day, who knows how many we might read. So I don't know if you guys have ever been in a situation where you had to kind of do the same thing over and over all day. But sometimes when you have a surprise where maybe so like that last essay we read, the thing I didn't like about it is the very first sentence at the top, right? Where the student mentioned, okay, I'm gonna, about how they want to be a nurse. To me, that's very general. And so sometimes I get essays where the student is so creative in the way that they begin their essay. I know that the essay is going to be good, right? And that's something that is always a pleasant surprise. So you want to make sure to kind of think about that when you're starting your essay. And know your audience, I can say this as someone that's been working in this field for a while, that most of the people that I work with are pretty cool, right? They're all pretty down-to-earth people, and they love students. They really care about students, and they care about advocating, like Emily mentioned. So know your audience. Don't be afraid to be yourself. If you guys are going, how many of you guys attend the college visits, the visit presentations that are occurring, right? So you may have gotten this while you're meeting with these various people from different schools. They're the reason why most of us are passionate is we love working with students, right? And so a lot of us have very outgoing personalities. It's hard for some people to get up and talk in front of a large group of people, but for a lot of us, it's very easy to do because we're speaking to the people we love to work with. So keep in mind who your audience is, And then lastly, you guys are experts on yourself. So don't outthink yourself when you sit down to do this. It's you guys have been kind of preparing for this moment, for the last few years. And now it's your opportunity to really kind of give us the information that we wouldn't know by just reading through the required materials, right? So you're the expert on yourself, and definitely approach it like that. And I think that's something that will help you be successful. So to kind of conclude today, what we want to do is we want to turn this over to you guys, and we want you guys to ask any questions. This is your opportunity. If you have questions, for those of you that are working on your essays now, or maybe you've already finished it, but you're still kind of thinking maybe I could change a few things. We want you guys to ask those questions. Don't be shy. You guys all know each other, right? Okay, see, I get nothing from this side of the room, and it's like this side only. So, okay, so if you don't be shy, throw those questions out. If you also have questions just in general about, we also have a mic down here, so that way everyone can hear your question. If you have questions about the schools that we represent, take this time to ask those questions, and we're happy to answer those. So, questions?
Come on down. Come on down.
We know you have them.
Come on.
If you have questions, you can actually come down and you want to make a line, that's fine as well.
Okay, well, just earlier, you guys have been talking a little bit about the supplemental pieces in the Common App, and so I was just curious in terms of the Common App essays, mainly the main focuses and differences between a general personal statement in the Common App essay and the supplemental pieces, what we should have in terms of differences between the two of them, and really if there is any difficulties, if we have similarities or similar points that we cover in both essays.
I think that's a really good question. Now remember with the personal statement part of it, you are going to have five topic choices now. So you'll have 5 topic choices to choose from, and your essay is really going to reflect those. I would definitely use the supplement to address something different. So again, you have 2 opportunities to share yourself in a different way. The supplement will be much more school specific. So it's stuff that institution specifically wants to know about you. I think I actually was reading through, I didn't know the University of Chicago until we were doing this presentation, writing it, that their topic was, describe your Wednesday. And I thought that's such a cool topic. So you're obviously in that going to bring something out very different from what your personal statement is. And I would definitely, like I said, those are 2 opportunities. If a school gives you an option for a 3rd open-ended, I know the UC has a 3rd optional essay, use that opportunity. And that one I think is even more open. So yeah, each one is an opportunity to share more about yourself. Does that make sense?
Hi. I have a question. What do you say is more memorable? A very strong and interesting hook, or a very great conclusion? Very good conclusion.
Both. I think, like I mentioned earlier, for me, it really stands out when a student has a very strong entrance to their essay. So the beginning of your essay is really important to me because, like I said, as you kind of go through different essays and throughout your day, how they come in and how they hook you from the beginning to me stands out. But if you don't tie it all the way in, then you end up losing the reader, in the middle and in the end. So I would definitely say both, personally.
I agree both. The beginning part, I was at a writing essay workshop where I was reading essays, and then this girl brought in an essay, and it was like, I've read so many essays, these students need a lot of work, and then her opening sentence was like, oh my gosh, I want to keep reading, and I want to know what's going on, because it just kind of kept going, and I was like, this is like, it could go bad, it could be a bad story, or it could be a really great story. And so that's what you want to put, the hook is going to be important. But if you grab me, and then you're like, it kind of dwindles, then it doesn't really, at the end I'll be like, oh, that wasn't as great as I thought it was going to be.
Yes, it's kind of like, do you guys watch movies? Or do you like to watch movies, should I say? How many of you guys go to the movie theater then? Right? Sometimes, right? So think about it. Think about a time that you've been to the movie theater, and maybe you're with a friend, or maybe you're by yourself. I guess if you're by yourself, you don't have to admit that, but if you're by yourself, if you're with a friend by yourself, and then the first 5 or 10 minutes of the movie, can't you tell if you're gonna like it? Or have you ever watched a movie where in the first 5 or 10 minutes you're like, okay, this was a mistake, right? Okay, so think about that in the context of your essay. How you start, that's gonna be a big deal. So keep that in mind as you guys are approaching, how do I start my essay? What's something that I can say to kick this off to really grab the reader and then maintain their attention and their focus throughout?
So what would you guys say that a good ratio is for a student having their essay between thoughts and opinions and curiosities that they have and the way that they view the world and anecdotal evidence and anecdotes from their past?
I think it really depends on how you're writing your essay. If it's too kind of philosophical or too like, oh, I want the world to be like this, and there's no evidence, it really has no meaning. It's like, oh, great, those are the opinions they have, but we're not seeing you as a student, right? So I think it kind of goes back to that rule of like, make sure you're really talking about yourself and like, again, giving that concrete, like, here's what happened, here's how I view this, here's what I'm doing, to make this happen or to contribute to whatever it is. Does that kind of make sense?
I kind of have 2 parts to my question. The first is, I've heard that different schools have opinions on whether or not you should say that you're going to be an undecided major or like one specific major or multiple that you're interested, because I have a lot of things that I'd be interested in potentially. And then also in your essay, should you write about that potential major and how you would go about that major, like the nurse one, or should you just write about yourself as a human being and your personality?
I think it kind of depends, again, it goes back to that each individual school. Typically, if it's, it really is individual school basis, because some schools really do not care that you're coming in undeclared. Some schools admit by major. I know we have a nursing program that's very competitive because it's direct entry, and they do have a question on the application that asks us specifically why they want to be a nurse. So in that case, yes, we want to hear that because you're applying to that more competitive program. But again, I think if you're talking about like the Common App, for instance, where you have a lot of schools accepting it, your major probably isn't going to play as much of a role in that essay as maybe a supplemental question further down in the application process.
And I guess in your general Common App essay, you probably don't have to talk about your major, what you want to major in necessarily, because we'll probably see that in the part that asks your major. So obviously we know what you kind of are interested in or undecided at that point. So you want to keep your Common App essay pretty, I would say, general, if that's the right word, more about you personally versus like what major you want to go into.
And lastly for you, I would add it. So I think for us, it would depend on, in general, I would say it's better to kind of talk more about yourself and your experiences. But let's say, what's your name?
My name's Claire.
Claire. So let's say Claire is interested in business, right? She wants to major in business. And let's say Claire started a business, her sophomore, junior year here. And let's say her business blew up and she has employees, right? And let's say a couple of you in here are employees, you work with her and you clock in, clock out kind of thing. That would be something you would want to talk about, because then you're not just telling us, okay, I'm interested in business, but you're telling us, I've actively been pursuing this, this career option, and this is what I've done. This is what I've learned, and this is the outcome. And, I think I can benefit from going to your school because of X, Y, and Z kind of thing.
Okay, but if you had something that you're interested in, and on your resume or something, it says that you've done things, like multiple things involving that interest, showing that you've already done it, would you still want to write about it in the essay, or does it kind of already be self-explanatory?
Again, it kind of goes back to how much have you done with that. If it's just a club you've been involved in, or you've had a job, or some kind of managerial position, then probably that's not something you want to write about in your essay, but it's kind of like that entrepreneur thing. If you've really started something and really been active and it's been a huge part of your high school career, yeah, then maybe that's something you want to write your essay on. But in that case, you're not really writing on, oh, I want to be a business major. I mean, sure, you can interpret that, but you're actually writing on those leadership skills, talent. So you're actually writing your essay more, again, it goes back to you're writing it about yourself and who you are as a person, more than I want to major in this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
And then I would just add on to that, so if any of you have started your own company and do not want to major in business, you can still write about that in your essay.
I was wondering, for the Common App essay, let's say there's like 3 main ideas or experiences you want to tell each college. Would it be better to list them all there so you know each college gets to know that if it's not in their supplement? Or would it be better just to focus on one and get them to know that as well?
I say focus on one.
I agree with that. Pick one topic. And it's okay to write, like your draft of your essay may write on all 3 of those. You may be talking about all 3 of those, but when you go through to kind of refine that draft, you're going to find one key sentence or one key topic, and that's actually what your final draft will be about. Does that make sense? So kind of develop all of them and see which one you feel most passionate about or most you feel you're able to portray in the best light.
Similarly to the major question, if you have a career that you know you're interested in, would you want us to talk about that, or does it seem too narrow-minded going and focusing on that? Like for engineers, people tend to like that because they have separate engineering schools with other fields.
I mean, I honestly think, the reality is you guys are 17 and 18 years old, and there's probably a small percentage of you that really know what you want to do. Shadow of a doubt, you're going to get to college and this is what you're going to study, and you're not going to change that. For the most part, you guys are going to get to college and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't discovered this major yet. I want to focus on this. Even if you come in engineering, I know, like for us, you come in and we have 9 different focuses. You come in undeclared engineering. So you may come in thinking, oh, I'm going to be a mechanical engineer, and then you discover packaging engineering, and you decide that's a better fit for you. So I think most colleges don't view it as a career choice at 17. Does that make sense? Or 18? So really writing your essay about that, it could be good for the right student. Again, it's going back to who you are as a student, but in general, it's probably better to stick to more talking about an experience you've had or who you are to let that come through. Is that
Yeah, so for that question specifically, I would say, depending on what you're specifically talking about. If, as an engineering student, I'm just going to throw it out there, many engineering students who are interested in engineering actually are in robotics. So if you're going to talk about, you can talk about robotics in your essay, as an example, but make it really specific. Like, I am the captain of the robotics team, and these are the things that I've learned. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be specifically like, we won a championship because we made the best robot. Obviously, that's probably why you won a championship. But it has to be really specific to you and what your experiences are in that robotics club.
Or if you're in robotics, maybe not necessarily that you won the championship, but the experience you had preparing and going, and the time and determination it took into going to that competition, and then how that competition has influenced your desire to go into engineering or become an engineer or something like that. That would be a way to tie it.
And then for the general comment on essays, again, it doesn't, even though you want to go into engineering, the essay has, you can talk about playing the cello, and that could be direct, and that could be your essay, even though you're interested in engineering. Okay, that help?
Before you guys go, I would like you to just answer this one question so I don't have to repeat it to everybody here. Every year, somebody comes to me and they're in a panic because they realize they made one tiny grammatical or typo in their essay. Please assure them that will not nix their admission opportunities.
Yeah, that's never, I've never heard of a school,
Thank you.
Really focusing on something like that. So I speak for myself, my school, the school I represent, that's not a big deal. Like I said, it's different if your whole essay is, damaged because that's different. But if you just have, a grammatical error or two, that's not going to be that big of a deal to us. All right, so sounds like that's a personal question. Thank you guys very much for your time this morning. Good luck as you guys apply to different schools.